Good evening. It is an honor to be here at the Military Ball 2006 in Santa Barbara, California with General P.X. Kelly, our guest of honor this evening. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have someone that has led the Marine Corps be here speaking to those that have served us so well. Can you tell us what the military balls mean to you as in your service and in your retirement?
Well, I think this one in particular because the orientation is on the greatest generation. And as you probably do know or may not know, that I was in charge of building the World War II Memorial in Washington. And my father died in World War II, and I too was a member of the greatest generation as a junior air raid warden in Boston, Massachusetts. So it means a lot in terms of the nature of the ball.
Well, we certainly do honor the greatest generation, and we're also very, very proud to have Marine Color Guard and a number of Marines here that are serving in active duty today, and we look forward, sir, to your presentation later today.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me here.
It's an honor, sir. Thank you very kindly. Good evening. I'm Doug Crawford with the Board of Directors of the Navy League of the United States, and we're here this evening at the Military Ball 2006 in Santa Barbara, California. And I'm pleased to be here with Linda Nara, the president of Community West Bank. Welcome.
Thank you, Doug. It's a thrill to be here.
Can you tell us what it means to a business in a community like yours to not only attend but participate and help sponsor a military event honoring those that have served us?
Well, it's a thrill to be here, and more importantly, we're a community bank, and we just love to do things that benefit the community, and what better way than to honor our vets. And secondly, my husband's a World War II vet, of which I'm very proud.
Well, we thank you for his service and your bank's service to our community, and we look forward to seeing more of you later this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. What an honor it is to be here in Santa Barbara at the Military Ball 2006 and with two of the Military Ball's finest supporters, Noel and Jenna Berkey. And I'd just like to know what the Military Ball has meant to you and your family.
The Military Ball is to honor all our servicemen, past and present, who have dedicated so much and given all to their country, and we cannot be prouder of them. And we just hope this continues on every year because we want to continue our support for them.
Well, this whole community has been blessed by your father, Pierre Claessens, and Pierre Claessens has meant an awful lot to us in the Navy League, as well as to the Pierre Claessens War Museum. And this whole event really has come about as a result of the work that he has done in your family. And I guess the question is now, as the generations come along, do you see there being any kind of separation from the Military Ball or the Navy League, or more involvement?
We're just going to keep supporting them. It's dear to our hearts, and we can't leave them.
We can't forget them.
No.
That would be the greatest sin. So, well, thank you very, very much for being here tonight, and we'll have you on some more later on.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
It's the Military Ball 2006 in Santa Barbara, California, and it would not be the Military Ball without Hazel Blankenship. We want to thank you for all you do for this community and in honoring these men and women. Can you tell me something about this year's Military Ball and why you organized it the way you did and what you hope happens from it?
Well, we thought it was very special because it's the 10th annual, and we thought it was very appropriate to have P.X. Kelly, the former Commandant of the Marine Corps, who's the most highly decorated officer in the history of the Marine Corps, who has some ties to Santa Barbara. He had his wife and daughter stay here when he was serving in Vietnam for 2 tours during the 60s and early 70s, and loved Santa Barbara, and so we thought it was appropriate, and obviously it was a winner because we're Thanksgiving weekend and 300 people.
Wonderful event, and there's also another wonderful thing that the Blankenship family is doing here in Santa Barbara, and that is the Pierre Claessens Military Museum. Can you tell us anything about the Military Museum and the status of that?
Museum and library, we've raised $2 million. We're looking at another $5 million contribution. We're moving forward with oral histories. The Santa Barbara County Arts Commission presently has over 80 of our Boys and Girls of Santa Barbara exhibit in City Hall, which will be there for 2 months. It's generated a lot of interest, and we're just very pleased. We're moving forward, and we plan to build this facility within the next 5 years.
Well, the Navy League in Santa Barbara looks forward to being a big part of the support group to make that happen. We love it. We love the work that you're doing and appreciate very much the opportunity to be here tonight at the Military Ball. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
This has been a perfect Military Ball 2006 in Santa Barbara, and due in large part to the hard work of many people, but none more important than Christine Mollenkopf with the Board of Directors of the Santa Barbara Navy League. And Christine, could you tell us why is it that a military ball actually means something to you?
Thanks, Doug. The military ball has always been very important to me. I am celebrating almost 10 years of marriage to Chief Petty Officer Tom Haug with our own local Coast Guard Marine Safety Detachment here. I'm also the very proud daughter of Robert Mollenkopf, who is a Santa Maria resident and a Vietnam veteran, and the granddaughter of Lawrence Mankins, who is one of Santa Barbara's own sons, who is a veteran of World War II and served in Saipan and also Iwo Jima.
Well, you know that it really does speak to the heart of all of us when we hear that families devote and dedicate so much of their life. And this is one time of the year that I know that you've worked very hard to be able to say thank you to all of them. How about all of the greatest generation that you see here tonight? Anything you'd like to say to them?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for ensuring the freedoms that we enjoy each and every day and that our children will be able to enjoy. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Christine, for all you do. God bless. John Blankenship, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you after such a fantastic military ball 2006 Santa Barbara. It wouldn't have happened without yours and Hazel's work. We thank you very much for that. But we'd also like to know a little bit about what the community should know. Why do you do this, and what about the museum and library that you're working so hard to bring to Santa Barbara?
Well, I think it has to do with history, and thank you, Doug. It also is very important that we don't forget what happened to the greatest generation in the Second World War and the education that needs to be carried forward with our younger people who have no idea of what the sacrifices that these men and women gave and how critically important all the events were of the Second World War in the rest of our lives.
Well, I'm never at loss except for when I see what tremendous people you are able to bring together for this military ball. PX Kelly, can you give me a couple of words? You've gotten to know him pretty good. Tell me what you think of PX Kelly.
Well, PX is very unique. There's not many men like him, and he's was the commandant, youngest Marine general in history, also the most highly decorated Marine in history. So that speaks for itself, and he's an incredible human being and a very bright fellow also. So it's
well, I know that you were an aviator during Vietnam, and I was in the Army Honor Guard and saw a couple of thousand families mourning the loss of their sons at Arlington Cemetery, and it's always kind of been a bother to me whenever anybody talked about Vietnam. Can you tell me what it meant to you to hear PX Kelly say what he did about the Vietnam War and those that served during that time?
Well, yes, I think that we've all gone around in a pail about being there. A lot of us were drafted like myself. We did our duty, but it wasn't very pleasant to come home to, and that was very sad for all of us that went, and especially for the ones that didn't come back. I'm really happy that he brought that up. So it's coming from that man.
Well, John, I want to say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for all you're doing to make sure that no one ever forgets the contribution that all these wonderful men and women have made. God bless you, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Doug.
Well, this has been a remarkable military ball 2006 in Santa Barbara, California, and I'm so honored to be here with Bert Curtin, who served 2.5 years in World War II. Can you tell us what the military ball meant to you tonight, Bert?
Well, it was just absolutely the greatest. And to be with my own kind doesn't happen very often. There are not a lot of us left.
Well, we refer to you as the greatest generation, and I want you to know it from the bottom of our hearts. We mean that because we know the sacrifice that all Americans made, but no more than the ones that served in duty. Can you tell us where you were during your 2.5 years?
I was in several places. I was in the first contingent of Marine women in New York City at Hunter College. And then I won't tell you all the places, but I served in the control tower in Atlanta, Georgia, and in Parris Island, South Carolina.
Well, we are so thankful, and we're glad that you're here and hope that we will see you again next year. We know that God will bless us with that all happening. It is the military ball in Santa Barbara, California, 2006, and we are here with 1st District Supervisor Salud Carbajal, who I believe not only is a great servant for our community, but a great American. Can you tell me something about your military background and what does the military ball mean to you, Salud?
Well, I served in the Marine Corps for 8 years, the Marine Corps Reserves, and PX Kelly, who is here today, was the commandant of the Marine Corps when I was in boot camp. So I've come full circle, and meeting him today was a real honor and a real joy. In terms of what the military ball means to me, it's a celebration of service, of all the branches that have served, all the men and women that have served to protect our freedom and our Constitution and our country.
Okay, it's an honor to be here at the Military Ball 2006 with Sheriff-elect Brown, and we very much appreciate your attendance. Can you give us your impression of this Military Ball?
Well, it's a wonderful evening, obviously, tonight to be here with so many members and former members of our armed forces who've done so much to protect us and keep this country the country that it is and to ensure our freedom, and had a wonderful experience meeting so many people tonight. Some inspiring words by General Kelly, and a great band and a lot of fun. Everybody's having a great time, so it's a pleasure for me to be here.
Well, we really appreciate your being here and congratulate you on your recent election and look forward to working with you. The Navy League is here to work with our police department and help support all of the men and women that serve our country and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to continued association.
Well, what an honor it is to be here at the Military Ball 2006 with Captain Bob Coleman. And Captain Bob Coleman has a very special place in Santa Barbara Navy League history. You were once the president of this, is that correct?
Correct, and I've been a member since it started in Santa Barbara.
Well, we're here today because of you then, sir. Also, we're here today because of what you did and how you served in earlier years. Can you tell us what you think of this Military Ball?
I think it's a great event. I've been to every one of them, and they get better every year. This is a great band, a great PX Kelly. I know from my ranchero experiences with him, as a great guy, and he outdid himself today.
Well, I was very impressed, having served during Vietnam, to have a general stand up and tell us what a good job we did. It was a godsend for us. Do you have any other words of wisdom that you might want to share with the rest of the community about what the military is to us?
The military is the backbone, and the Navy League is the backbone of the Navy.
I couldn't have said that better myself. Thank you, sir, very much. God bless. Well, a Military Ball in Santa Barbara 2006 also talks about the future of our military, and I'm very, very pleased to be here with Jim Berry, U.S. Coast Guard cutter Blackfin, right here in Santa Barbara.
That's right.
What does the Military Ball mean to a guy that's in the Coast Guard serving today?
Well, I've only been in the Coast Guard for almost 2 years now. This is my first Military Ball, and from what I saw tonight and experienced, it's great. And especially the theme, The Greatest Generation. I'm always awed with the guys who fought in World War II. They just sacrificed so much, and it was great just to, see one of the guys here, one of the veterans, and, all the veterans here, and just see how much they contribute to the country and, to that effort. And this was awesome to me. I loved it.
Jim, you just saw the #1 Marine guy, and he talked to us about prior generations. Any of his message really resonate with you?
It sure did. He specified the importance of how important it is for us to be involved and to love your country and to stand for what it believes in, to support your leaders and your president. So.
Well, we thank you for being here in Santa Barbara, and don't forget the Navy League's here to support you. Anything you need, let us know. Thanks, Jim. Well, it's an honor and a real pleasure to be able to be here at the Santa Barbara's Military Ball 2006, and especially with the chairman, Mr. Dan Burnham. Can you tell us a little bit about how this came to be and what you think, how did it go?
Well, first of all, let me also express my joy of being here and the goosebumps that you get from being with, indeed, the greatest generation. I was talking to one person who was ace in World War II, shot down 12 enemy aircraft. I talked to another gentleman who talked about doing a barrel roll over a Japanese carrier and then dropping a bomb on the carrier. And these are today old gentlemen, but they have all the fire and vim that they ever had before. It is truly exciting to be here. And the Clison's Museum's whole purpose in life is to assure that none of the next generations ever forget what this group did for us all.
Well, I think Pierre's famous clause was, or statement was, never forget. That would be the greatest sin, is to forget. And it certainly is. I mean, you're here in retirement now, but you led one of our nation's great companies in Raytheon, and one of the government, when you talk about how does a country build a defense system and how does it serve its people, is there a certain connection that you get when you talk with these people and you understand that Raytheon is doing for our existing service people what it is doing?
Well, one of the joys of having worked for Raytheon, and indeed for the entire defense industry, is the sense of commitment, and to use an old-fashioned but still perfect term, patriotism, that engages all the people in that industry. They can speak with authority back what their parents did in Vietnam or what their grandparents did in World War II, because they understand the greater purpose. It's not just doing the job, it's not just making money, it's there to serve our national purpose. So yes, there's a direct and vital connection.
Well, Dan, it's really clear that you speak from your heart, and we're so pleased to have you not only in our community, but leading this very, very important project with the museum. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you very much yourself. Thank you.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Creator Spirit, gracious God, listen to this. Semper Fidelis. Who was it that first launched that timeless motto into our national life through the United States Marine Corps? In proven history, these words, always faithful, have not only bolstered Marine morale and guaranteed their heritage, but they have also become an earthly echo of your divine blessing on our nation. For it is true, because you have been always faithful for our welfare, we Americans have been greatly favored among all peoples. We have been given a marvelous mix of people from all over the earth. We have been provided rich resource, and we have been moved to support and rescue others globally. On this memorable evening, together, we ask that you may continue to help us be faithful to our honorable destiny, always empowered to live freely and courageously. Semper Fi, amen.
This event has always been near and dear to my heart, and I'll tell you why. Not only am I celebrating almost 10 years of marriage to Chief Petty Officer Tom Howe of the United States Coast Guard, stationed right here in Santa Barbara, but I'm also the proud daughter of Vietnam veteran Robert Mollenkoff, who's sitting right over there. I am also the granddaughter of Lawrence E. Mankins, a son of Santa Barbara. As a young man, he volunteered to serve our country during World War II, despite the shelter of an agricultural exemption, and saw action in Iwo Jima and Saipan. And his widow, my grandmother, Betty Mankins, joins us here this evening as well. This is my opportunity on behalf of Navy League to say thank you for being here tonight particular because we have a fantastic dance band and smiling ear to ear. Let's all give a big round of applause for Pierre. And little Turtle doesn't end up on the fence post by herself, so I also want to give thanks to the members of the Military Ball Planning Committee who all worked very hard to make sure that this event came off tonight. And that includes Hazel Blankenship with the Museum and Library. Hazel, where are you? Right there, Hazel. And the Center of Navy League, Karen Crawford. Karen, where are you? Melissa Goff. And Stephen Miller. Thank you very much. A special thanks also to Santa Barbara Navy League's Administrator, Kathy Berry. Kathy, where are you? My goodness, that woman always has a smile on her face and a little wink in her eye and just make sure that everything happens smoothly and no feathers get ruffled. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. We love you. Navy League is a civilian, non-partisan, non-profit organization dedicated to the support of the men and women of the sea services and their families, and also to the education of the citizens and our elected officials about the importance of sea power to not only our national economy, but also our nation's security. Our local Santa Barbara chapter is also 1,000 members strong. We like to brag that we're the largest council without a board, with a board of directors of 25 community leaders. As many of you know, we've adopted the crew of the USS Ronald Reagan, but we've also adopted our two local Coast Guard units here, the Blackfin Cutter and also our Marine Safety Detachment. We're also working with Operation Homefront and Operation Independence to communicate with our soldiers and sailors on the front lines. And tonight you have a very special opportunity to do just that. If you look on your table, you'll see a little postcard. And if you take a minute to just write, there's a little small space there, you can write a special message. Just to say thank you. We will do our very best to make sure that these postcards make it to our nation's sons and daughters in Iraq and Afghanistan in time for the holidays. So I encourage you to please take a moment and share some words of encouragement. Navy League and the museum are able to do what we do because of the financial support we receive from memberships and the generous contributions of individual donors, corporations, and foundations. We'd like to give special thanks tonight to the Woods Plaisance Foundation, Northrop Grumman, the law firm of Price, Costell & Parma, and also Hayward Lumber. Thank you very much for your generous contributions tonight. Thank you.
I first heard P.X. Kelly in 1983 at a Leather Neck Ball in New York City. He talked for, 10 minutes or so, and at the end of it, all 1,500 or 2,000 cynical New Yorkers were ready to take the hill, because I've never heard anybody before or since who can engage a group. Following him was a businessman whose name I will not repeat publicly, who in 10 minutes deflated the entire room, sucked all the energy out, and left everybody depressed. So we decided tonight to reverse the order. First you get the businessman, then you get BS. Now following me immediately will be a DVD of PX, and then you'll get the real guy. But before, let me walk through a somewhat truncated version of his resume, because we clearly do not have enough time to go through it all. General Kelly served as the 28th Commandant of the United States Marine Corps. Calm down, Bill. He was a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from 1983 until his retirement in 1987.
Subsequently, he served under 3 presidents as chairman of the American Battle Monuments Commission. In this position, he was responsible for the design and preliminary construction of the Korean War Veterans Memorial, and the legislation, construction, and dedication of the National World War II Memorial. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in economics from Villanova. And he's a distinguished graduate of the Air War College and has received honorary doctorate degrees from a large number of universities. During his 37-year military career, he commanded the Marine Corps organizations at every level, from platoon through division, including command of an infantry battalion and infantry regiment during 2 separate combat tours in Vietnam. He has also had the unique experience of duty with the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Royal Marines, where he commanded a commando troop in Singapore, Borneo, and Malaya. Of all of those things, that one intrigues me the most. In December of 1979, he was appointed by the President as the first commander of the Rapid Deployment Joint Task Force and spearheaded the initiative, which eventually culminated in the redesignation as the U.S. Central Command. General Kelly was selected twice for accelerated promotion, once to the rank of colonel and again to the rank of Major General. He remains the youngest Marine to be promoted to the rank of General, and is a Marine Corps parachutist, Army Master Parachutist, and Navy Scuba Diver. By the way, this is the truncated version. His military decorations really are too numerous to describe. It includes the Distinguished Service Medals from the Department of Defense, from the Department of the Navy, from the Department of the Army, and the Department of the Air Force. Now, how unusual do you think that is? He has the Silver Star Medal, 3 awards of the Legion of Merit, and 2 awards of the Bronze Star. He's Chairman Emeritus of the Irish-American Partnership, and get this, he was named Southern California's Irishman of the Year. Hey, Hurley, were you competing for this or what? Huh? I feel left out of that, but I wasn't in Southern California at that time, so it's okay. He has served on 10 New York Stock Exchange boards and 12 other private corporate boards. And he's also on the Council of Foreign Relations.
Well, if I was smart, I'd probably just sit down and take my accolades and shut up. However, I do have a few messages I'd like to at least write up tonight. When I arrived, someone said to me, "Have you ever served under General Fuller?" That's Chesty Puller, who is renowned in the Corps, 5 Navy Crosses, tremendous reputation, but I have not served. I have not served under General Puller. But I had the privilege as a young brigadier general of escorting his wife to a Marine birthday ball. And Mrs. Puller, a very charming lady from Saluda, Virginia, with a classic sort of syrupy southern drawl, said to me as we were sitting having our dinner, she said, "You know, Jim Kelly," she said, "everybody knows Mal Lewis as a great warrior. I've got to tell you something, General, he was a hell of a lover, too." Now match that one if you can. The interesting part about being the Irishman of the Year for Southern California, I was called by Tony O'Reilly, who was the chairman of the American Island Fund, and asked if I would be the Irishman of the Year for Southern California. And I said, "Mr. O'Reilly, let me see if I have this straight. I was born and brought up in Boston. I went to college in Philadelphia. I live in Washington, D.C. Have you run out of Irishmen in Southern California?" He didn't answer me. Someone mentioned tonight how many years they were married, and I'm sad, it's not sad, but I'm sad that Barbara's not here, because in March we celebrated our 55th wedding anniversary. And this was a college sweetheart, and who suffered with me for 37 years of active duty, and who unfortunately is not here because we had out-of-town guests for Thanksgiving dinner, but also she's been having an eye operation come Monday, so we thought it was probably best that she stay home. I can't possibly tell you how deeply honored I am, seriously, to be with you tonight and joining you for this 2006 military ball. I think particularly since it's dedicated to the greatest generation. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, first of all, let me tell you about my relationship and Barbara's relationship with Senator Barbara. Barbara had a long relationship. Her uncle was a professor of history at UCSB. She unfortunately, right before I was sent to Vietnam in my first tour, she unfortunately had a situation where both of her parents died almost simultaneously. She was an only child, and her only living relatives lived in Santa Barbara. So with my going overseas and not knowing what that would ever bring, she decided to come out so she would be with her relatives in the event anything happened to me. So she stayed here for a year and loved it, loved every bit of it. You've heard of my association with the Rancheros. Tony Merrill is sitting over there, knows of my association with the Merrills. I think they with the Rancheros. I think they fired me, didn't they, Tony? No. Several people I want to thank. I want to thank Cy Jenkins and his lovely wife Karen. I should thank Karen for loaning me Duke. The Duke is her favorite mount and the one that I use on all of my RV trips. And a special thanks to the Blankenships for all they did to get me here. They were the engines of this evening, and wonderful engines they are, and Hazel and John, I thank you seriously from the bottom of my heart. When Tom Brokaw first published The Greatest Generation, there were some from other generations who felt that they too are an important part of our history. And of course they are, and I salute for what they have done and accomplished for our beloved country. However, as history will show, World War II, on the other hand, touched every man, woman, and child, and there were 180 million of us at the time. President Roosevelt said it dramatically in his famous speech in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor, when he said, "We are now in this war. We are all in it. Every single man, woman, and child is a partner in this, the most tremendous undertaking of our American history." John Keegan, the noted English historian, said the Second World War was the largest single event in human history. It was fought across 6 of the world's continents and all of the world's oceans. It killed 50 human beings, left hundreds of millions wounded in mind and body, and materially devastated much of the heartland of civilization. In the United States, 16 million, or 10% of our population, served in the uniform of their country. Many, I might add, had not yet become citizens. And in my duties as the chairman of the Battle Monuments Commission, I used to love to wander through the cemeteries, our cemeteries overseas, up and down the rows of crosses, and stop and pause and look and say, who are you? Who are you? You gave your life for the country. Could you have been the President of the United States? Could you possibly have been someone who found a cure for cancer? But who are you? In one speech I remember very well, I recited, in a gathering, I recited the famous poem, Trees. Most of you, I think, will probably remember Trees. Joyce Tillman's famous poem. Well, Joyce Tillman is buried in one of our cemeteries overseas, and the irony of it all was when I was putting together my remarks, I suddenly realized that Joyce Tillman was killed in the Battle of the Ourcq River in France in 1918, and my own father was a rifle company commander in the Rainbow Division, the same unit that he served in. And I encourage all of you, if you ever can do it, to take the time. Those pristine cemeteries overseas are well worth seeing. There's something to behold, and certainly, as we all know, Normandy being the one that is most famous, we are putting up an interpretive center there, and we'll tell you the whole story of the European War. But going back to the Greatest Generation, I'm not sure you all realize that there were 400,000 who were either killed in action or died of wounds from our country. 400,000. 671,000 more were wounded, and as of today, very sadly, 78,000 remain missing in action. From 1939 to 1945, our industrial base produced 304,000 aircraft. Of that number, we lost 60,000 aircraft in combat. I mention these numbers because we are mesmerized daily by the media, who every little nitpick of what's going on in the war is pounded and pounded and pounded. And we realize that our heritage really is based on some very startling and significant figures: the loss of life and devotion to duty. We also lost 157 surface combatant ships and 866 merchant vessels. The losses were significant. Meanwhile, at home, we mustered millions on the home front, and I'm proud to say that as a 12-year-old, I was a junior air raid warden in Boston, Massachusetts. My first duty was to stand watch in a makeshift cupola atop of a local American Legion post and report aircraft sightings. Tremendous responsibility. But it was a lot of fun because, as Dan Burnham will know, or knows, it's not a pleasant task to stand out in the open on a cold winter night in Boston. My second responsibility was to walk through the neighborhood at night and tell residents that their blackout curtains were leaking light. Not always a welcome revelation, I might add. In addition to this, we had gas and food rationing, black paint on the top half of our headlights, 35-mile-an-hour speed limits, but thank God, no nightly television. If we had the same technology as we have today, chances are that some of us might be speaking either German or Japanese. In this regard, think of it. Iwo Jima, 37 days on a 7.5 square mile island. 8,000 killed and 19,000 wounded. But lest we forget the value by war's end, 2,251 B-29 bombers made emergency landings on Iwo Jima, representing over 25,000 flight crew members who otherwise might have perished. Aside from the military victories in World War II, there were some very, very significant social benefits. First, those are the ones that integrated our regional, cultural, ethnic, and religious groups, and literally changed the whole basic fabric of our country. Young men from Paducah shared foxholes with some from New York. Young men from the hills of Tennessee shared Higgins boats on Omaha Beach with young men from Arkansas. And young men from Vermont clawed their way up Mount Suribachi with young men from Georgia. The other social benefit was the GI Bill of Rights, perhaps the most important social program in the history of our country, for it gave heretofore unthinkable opportunities to millions, literally millions of young men and women. But let me dwell for a moment, if you'll bear with me, on my background. On July 7, 1943, at Fitzsimmons General Hospital in Denver, a 14-year-old boy was given official orders telling him to escort his father's remains to a final resting place in a place called Boston. On that day, a beautiful, beautiful Irish immigrant mother earned a title she did not seek, but she later revered, as she became a Gold Star wife. And so I know firsthand the pain and suffering a family feels when a precious member is taken from it, particularly in wartime. So you see, that young boy was me, and that father was mine. This may be the right time for a moment to call out, or fallout. When my father died, my mother gathered her 4 children and cautioned them. It was something that has lived with me for all of my life. And she said, you can always look back. And from time to time you should. But don't stare. Your life, your future is ahead of you and not behind. So with that in mind, I don't think you invited me to come here all the way from Washington just to look back. So I'd like to play a little game with you. It's a game called POTUS. Some of you will recognize the name POTUS. POTUS is the acronym used in the White House to identify the President of the United States. POTUS. I always used to say, isn't it a hell of a note to think that the chief executive of the most powerful nation on earth is POTUS? Not very, very flattering. But before we proceed, let me give you a short primer. I want to make this a little more current. A short primer on the world of Islam, because I think a lot of us have forgotten what this world is and was for many centuries, and was at the forefront of our civilization. And they believed, and still believe, that at their borders were barbarians and infidels. It's part of their culture, and at one time the Muslim world was the greatest military power on earth and the foremost economic power in the world. And make no mistake about it. So what does the world of Islam look like today? Christianity, as we know, I'm sure, consists of 1 billion souls, roughly 32% of the world's population. Islam is a close second at 1.2 billion, or 20%. Ethnically, it is roughly 77% Arab and 18% Kurdish. As far as religions go, 97% are Muslim and 67% are Shias or Sunnis. In Iraq, there are close to today, as we see it, there are close to 20,000 terrorists with scores of armed caches that were left by the Saddam Hussein's regime. That estimate, to just give you some idea of the magnitude, that estimate is now looked at with some 600,000 tons of ammunition somewhere around Iraq. So it gives you an idea. They don't have to import IEDs. They've got them ready and available. Profiles show that these are young men. These are not thugs. They're young men in their 20s and 30s. They're well educated, many with college degrees, some married. In other words, they're a very, very serious threat. And I believe, and I firmly believe, it is just a matter of time before they do have in their hands weapons of mass destruction. So that is something that I think we have to think about. Now, you're POTUS, and you're sworn in on the 20th of January 2001. And the military force structure you have to construct a worldwide national strategy, and think of these numbers, are roughly 1/2 of what your father had for the Gulf War. You have 10 Army divisions, not 18. You have 300 surface combatant ships, not 600. You have 12 Air Force tactical fighter wings, and you have a Marine Corps that's some 30,000 less than what George Herbert Walker Bush had for the Gulf. Now let's fast forward 8 short months. While you're still awaiting confirmation of the bulk of your cabinet, suddenly the evil, brutal, cowardly forces of terrorism callously murdered 3,000 innocent civilians. The pain and anguish of this historic assault on the United States, your intelligence tells you that in their analysis, Saddam Hussein, who has previously used weapons of mass destruction, is now rapidly developing a nuclear capability. This information is confirmed by Tony Blair and by Vladimir Putin, although subsequently parts of it may be found to be erroneous. That's what you were faced with when you were making your decisions. What happened in the subsequent actions is not material when you're making a decision because you don't know what's going to happen in the subsequent action. Do you question this, or do you question this intelligence? Is that proven? Can anybody in your wildest imagination believe that the repercussions of such a thing, these repercussions would probably end up with thousands of people being killed, tens of thousands possibly? And what do you think Wolf Blitzer would say? Who would he blame? He'd blame POTUS, needless to say. So I think those are the things that POTUS was kind of faced with. You're still POTUS. You're still POTUS. And now your experts postulate a chilling scenario. What if, they say, Iraq and Iran both develop nuclear weapons? And recall they asked the vicious, almost subhuman conflict between these two countries in the early 1980s. What if, in the midst of this historical hatred, one side decides to employ a nuclear weapon against the other, and one can easily envision a nuclear holocaust in the Middle East, which would destroy the economic viability of the free world. Now, POTUS, what do you do? Well, my friends, let me tell you, you're living in a very dangerous world. So these are the things that the President and the government have to take into consideration. So let me just close this subject with a plea. I ask all of you here tonight for the purpose of honoring the greatest generation, the reason we're here. I ask, and I truly beg, that for the future of our children and our children's children, please keep in the forefront of your mind that we are currently engaged in a conflict with a potential for catastrophic consequences to our very way of life. And before closing, let me share some thoughts about my war. How many here fought in the Vietnam War? Show of hands. Thank you. Well, I believe that was one of the most difficult, controversial, and frustrating wars that we have had in our history. I think many people will agree with that. But let me shout from the highest mountain, let me say clearly for all to hear, that despite meddling by the White House, despite indecision by our Congress, despite cowardly draft dodging, despite despicable Hanoi dreams, despite all of them, the soldiers, the sailors, the Marines, and the Coast Guard who fought at the start of the strike in Vietnam did a superb job. And they stopped it. But the press does not give them any credit for anything that even closely approximates that. They stopped the growth of communism. They displayed to the world an awesome array of firepower and the ability to employ it. But most of all, they showed what courage, determination, and patriotism can accomplish on the battlefields. God bless them, each of them. My fellow Vietnam veterans, there can be no doubt whatsoever that one of the reasons why worldwide communism failed and the Berlin Wall came down was you. And no pathetic, inept, and apologetic former Secretary of Defense could ever change that. You accomplished your mission, and you did it despite him and his meddling cohorts, not because of them. Stand tall, be proud. You are patriotic Americans, and I salute you, each one of you. Now, the chaplain kind of stole my thunder when he talked about Semper Fidelis. So let me try to restore mine by talking about Semper Fidelis. There are two words, as he very articulately said, two special words that have inspired Marines for 231 years. Always faithful. And let me pose a serious question to each of you. Wouldn't it be a wonderful world if we were all Semper Fidelis to a God of our choice? Semper Fidelis to our beloved country, Semper Fidelis to our families, and Semper Fidelis to each other. So God bless each of you here with us tonight. God bless our armed services who so proudly serve. And God bless our beloved nation, the land of the free, but only so long as it remains the home of the free. Thank you.
Thank you, PX, for honoring us with your presence here tonight. It is impossible to adequately thank you, but we are sending you some Jarhead Red. It's just a very tiny gesture of our gratitude from us. Thank you, all of you, for being here tonight. And now let's hopefully we'll get the band back, and we'll have PX will dance with Noelle Berkey, which is Pierre Kleissen's daughter.